Well, I just watched Bob Owen's stream yesterday, and she was showing her Bible where she is doing Bible journaling in. And it's not the first time that I have seen people showing their creative Bible where they got a marking place where they can do journaling and doodles and kind of dress up their Bible. And I must admit that for the longest time I've been thinking like, oh my God, how can you doodle in a book like that? I kind of, something inside me just felt that that's not the book to do it in, and then yet I was really drawn into it, like inspired. So after watching Bob Owen's stream, it made me pull down my Bibles from my shelf. I got two, and the second that I pulled out my Bible, I realized that, oh my God, I already have been dressing up without even knowing. This is my original Bible from, I think it was given to me when I was 13. It was before communion, so I must be like 13. And I have dressed it up. And then I opened it, and then I realized, you know what, it's too late for me to feel that I cannot doodle or scribble in my Bible, because look, there's like so much strange things, small things that I have already, what can you call it, I have already written in my trying to understand the text. I forgot. I must say I forgot. I thought that my Bible was like untouched. But now I feel motivated to, you know, transform this into a Bible journaling, because look, I have already been around this book, right? So, oh man. Look, already destroyed the text with stuff. But there's not like much room, you know, like the margins, there's like room here, for instance, where you could do something. But yeah, flipping through my Bible also made me think about when was the last time I had this in my hand, and it's kind of fills me a little bit with sorrow. Because can you see these bookmarks here? Yeah. The last time I read in this book was I was searching guidance, help, some sort of, yeah, let me just tell it as it is. I was seeking forgiveness about being a bad daughter, because I have really bad relations to my parents when they were alive. So I was looking for places in the Bible to kind of be forgiven for not being the loving daughter. For some people, they grow up in families where being tied with the blood becomes a burden. But every part I found, and those are the ones that are marked off like this, was showing the opposite. Like there is no forgiveness to find. Those who curse their father and mother will walk forever in darkness. I mean, all these phrases here about what happens to a spirit when they turn their back to their kin. No blessing to be found. So today I'm thinking, oh, should I leave those tabs in or should I remove them? I don't know. Yeah. So I just kind of think that if I feel the spark of decorating this Bible, you know. So I think I could dress it up with some artwork. Yeah. Barb Owen certainly planted a seed, I'll tell you that. I look at all the paragraphs that I underlined, and you know, the green I think is when I read it the first time, and the underline is when I read it the second time, and subtracted something I don't even recognize. I can't even tell why this particular page was important for me once. Yeah, here's another one with honor your father and your mother, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I think most people who have actually read the Bible kind of feel the same as I do. Like, you can see you went through this page, but doesn't really spark any recollection of the message. So it's a book, I think, that you never stop reading in. You can always find passages that you need to reread and refresh. So yeah, but most and foremost, I want to show you my other Bible, because that's actually a little bit interesting, and I'll try to make this stream short, because I don't know how it's going to be received. So I'll just make like a small upload in this way, and see, you know, if people are gonna like dislike it or what, before I do like the whole flip through of the book. But what I wanted to show you, like, this is a Bible. It's a huge book. When I was in the Navy, the naval base quartered me in some very cheap flats, and in that quarter there was this tiny second-hand bookshop, and the owner, Jens, is still my friend today. I was helping him out during the weekend with his shop, because he had a very young family, so he wanted to stay home with wife and kid. And the sale was not good. And I was almost embarrassed turning in the revenue of the day, because there was like so little customers. And then came a time where he couldn't pay me, and I just what is it called when you say you don't have to, just wait until you can afford it? I postponed my own paycheck. And then 2.5 months passed, and I kept showing up for work but didn't get paid. And then there was this day, and I still remember it, and it almost makes me want to cry when I think about it. It was so emotional. When he had to say goodbye to me, he was so sad, and it was just so sad. And then he said that I can't give you any money. And then I asked him if I was allowed to pick a book as payment, because there's something between honest people that you need to have that transaction. It's not like Godfather, you know, like you owe me something that I can collect in the future. I mean, if you are among real friends and honesty is between you, then it's very important to settle finance, you know. From my world it is. So I picked this book as my payment, and it's a Bible, and that's how it entered into my life, that this was the settlement for unpaid salary for 2.5 months, and a very emotional goodbye. So that's how this book came into my life. And I must admit that I don't know the origin of this Bible. I think to me it looks like something that belongs in a monastery or a church. I mean, it is so big, like it should have been like displayed. I don't know. When you flip through it, you will realize that it's filled with a lot of illustrations in color. And not that I'm like super Christian and read the Bible. I have actually flipped through this book several times because of the illustrations. It's mostly like from the Renaissance, and there's not a lot of the very popular illustrations from the Catholic area, because, you know, people who are Christian don't see a lot of paintings with the Virgin Mary. That belongs to the church in Rome, you know. So most of these illustrations are a depiction from a scene in a text that was just shown on these pages here, right? So it's a very beautiful book to look at, even though if you another Christian. What I'm trying to say is that I look in this book to get inspiration. It shows me several areas of how art is knitted into our belief system, because there was a lot of illiterate people in the Middle Age, so they couldn't read, so they needed artists to show them depiction of the text and to put the beholder into that mood setting that you needed. Like, is this person being sad to be punished by God, or is he sacrificing himself to God? I mean, there's a difference there. So you can depict that as a painter in the facial expression and also the composition. So I wanted to share this book on my channel. It's actually a very beautiful Bible. There's nothing extra in it. That's not why it's so thick. It's just filled with illustration, a really large font compared to my original Bible. You can see that, you know, the font is bigger. So it's not like it's filled with something secret extra. Trust me, I have been looking for that. But anyway, I forgot about these first pages, and it made me laugh when I looked at it. Look, this, I think it's like a family Bible, because here you can write in the dates that someone has died, someone's getting married, communion, is it called that? I'm having difficulty translating the Danish and the English terminology for these things. Baptize, birthday. And then I thought, oh my God, it is untouched, like it's like a brand new book, until I flipped to this page. This Bible belongs to, and then my son, that little rascal, has written in his name. It cracked me up. Look, and I can see on the handwriting that he must have been like 10 or something. So yeah, that's just quite funny for me. So it made me laugh. So I guess that it's no longer my Bible, it's my son's Bible. That is just hilarious. I'm gonna let it stay. Here is an index of all the illustrations that are included in this Bible, and there are 95 of them, and I think that I will just go through the first ones to see how this stream evolves, if it's something that interests people. So here we have Michelangelo. God creates the sun, and it's very, I mean, you see it everywhere. Just like Monet, he's on powder jars and chocolate boxes, tissues, whatnot. This is such a famous image. Michelangelo, he was born in 1475, and he died in, I think, 1560. 65, 64, something around mid-15th century. And I guess that, you know, there's also this painting here from Michelangelo, God Creates Adam. And I guess that he painted both of these while he was belonging to that Italian school that you hear so much about. And both of these paintings are currently in Rome. They are displayed in the Sistine Chapel of the Vatican. And if you have seen the movie Habemus Papam, it's translated into We Got a Pope. There is a scene in this movie where the cardinals are gathered and actually locked inside this chapel because they have to select the new pope. And it was such, you know, I mean, imagine being allowed to record a movie inside the Sistine Chapel. So of course I watched that movie and dropped my draw several times when they are panning the camera around the wall and all the wall paintings. So if you want to see this in real life, you have to go into a guided tour to the Sistine Chapel. Well, Michelangelo described most of his painting with this Italian word. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I think it's something like terribilità. terribilita. Terribilita, I don't know, I can't pronounce it, but it means like fear or like an honorary reinforcement of the power of God, like it's not like terrible. It cannot be translated directly to that, even though the lingua sound a bit like it. It's more like a reinforcement of to honor the power of the Lord. So in this painting, God, he is creating the sun, and I imagine that Michelangelo wants us to give like a visual display of this powerful nature force that really must have taken place at this very event. I think he's trying to show it by having these like hurricane nature forces coming up from above, rising to the face, and it's like in a spiral force coming from below, and then really strong forces seems also to be focused on that right hand, like God is literally shoveling out a new star from the outer space. So he's creating the sun, which you can see up here, and this one, God creates Adam. Strangely enough, I think that the shape of God's cloth, you know, like here, it kind of reminds me of the shape of the human brain. I don't know if Michelangelo intended that to be so, but you can see like the neural stem here and then the frontal of the brain. So yeah, I think it's interesting, right? In this painting, Michelangelo shows us God surrounded with all his angels, and he is stretching out that life-giving right hand finger towards Adam. And look at the hand gesture from Adam. It seems like he's like just woke up or something, like he's kind of weak from just being created. But it's like a really weird greeting, you know, from Adam. Is it to show like the humans are weaker than God, who is like really strong? I don't know really what to put into it. But the woman that God is embracing, I think she is a depiction of Eva. And the reason why I think so is like the way he holds her is like she's still a spirit somehow. She's not being born out of Adam's ribs yet. So God is somehow greeting Adam and showing him that what to come is a gift. This woman called Eva. And I just love her expression. Like, she's a little bit scared, but yet really interested. But she is like, you can see on her posture that she's a little bit like, oh, I don't know what this is, you know. And I also think that the way that God is locking his arm, like embracing her, illustrate how Adam and Eve now, they're like joined together by the force of God. You know, like just that famous sentence that you hear when people are getting married, that they're getting joined together in God. So I think that's very beautiful translated from Michelangelo. There is a lot of thought going down in a painting like this. So, and why do I think that she is Eva? Because these cupids, I think they, like the way they are looking, that's why I think they're like spirits, like they're really faint in the background, but I'm not in doubt that they're like angels, because there is like hints of wings. But look at this very hazy drawing of faces. That's why I think they're like spirits. Yeah. Yeah, this is going to be a strange upload, because I'm just telling you what I think about these paintings, and why I think that the painter chose the composition and expressions and stuff. So it's gonna be like a little bit strange. Okay, and then moving on. The next image. Let's see. Oh, this one. Didn't I skip one? It felt like there was this page. Oh yeah, I skipped one. The next illustration is from Titian. How do you translate that into English? The Fall of Man, like the sin. The Fall of Man, I think it's more, yeah. It is The Fall of Man, I think I will call it that. Titian, he's from Madrid. He's also a member of the Italian school of painters. So time-wise, it is still the 14th century, but like early 15th century. And both Titian and Michelangelo, they belong to that group of people that they call High Renaissance period. And what is that? That is like a gathering of some of the well-known painters like Leonardo da Vinci, Raphael, and Bramante. And the style was just different, so that's why you can call it like a new class of how to express yourself on the canvas. They were focused a lot of dignity of the human being, like their stories set place in the human nature, and later on most people call that time era of art the mannerism. And manner is like a German word meaning mankind, so it's like art that springs out from the human nature. Yeah. Titian, he was very different in his painting style. So if you compare this with the two Michelangelos that we just saw, you can see that he have been focused on the human shape. But it's also like Titian got his eye for the landscape. This area in the back right here, which I really think is so interesting. Titian, he grew up in Venetia. And his painting seems to be like really colorful, like hazy in the landscapes, but I love that he takes them into the painting. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of painting from this time area chose not to have details in the background. It's like a flat color or just blurry thing, but he got like that hint of a very beautiful, colorful landscape. Yeah, if you know what I mean. It's like a veil of color and no shapes. You don't see like buildings, so you get like a scenery where the emotions are translated into the colors you receive and not by shapes of buildings and stuff. But anyway, his painting has never lacked any drama. Like, this is actually a very painful moment in the history of Christianity, because it's the loss of Eden. It's where humans are getting kicked out of the garden, right? And Eva is tempted by the evil to eat a fruit from the forbidden tree. And it's very interesting for me to see how Titian chose to depict the evil. As you can see, it looks like a choppy angel. What is the name? Like a cupid? Cupido? Is it called that? I don't know. A cupid? It looks like a innocent cupid, but clearly he is in disguise because his body around the tree ends in the split tail of a snake. That's rather interesting, you know, to camouflage the snake that tempted Eva like a innocent looking cupid, but you can still see that it's a snake. But at first glance it looks like branches from the tree, right? So I think that Titian, he painted it this way to show that evil can put on a mask of innocence and playfulness, because he sometimes needs to mask himself to corrupt mankind. So that's why I think that it is so interesting to look at the paintings that this Bible have chosen to show, because they got like that hidden story, hidden message for me when I look at this painting. Is first to recognize the scenery and then remember the story behind the scenery. We are getting evicted from the Garden of Eden, but we were actually seduced by something that looked innocent but was evil. So let me zoom down on that particular part of the tree, because I really think that's so brilliant. I mean, that is so freaking brilliant, to make the upper body a cubit, and then the rest of the body this snake looking like branches. So yeah. Ooh la la. Let's take the next one. Maybe I can flip like this, it's easier. Yeah, Bertram, Cain kills Abel. Who is Bertram? Well, he's from the German school, and he's actually called what is it called? Kunsthalle. It's in Hamburg. Kunsthalle. That's also like a German word. It's like a museum of artists from Hamburg. It's the 13th to around 14th century. And you can really like tell the difference between that high Renaissance and its northern painting style, because this is like a Northern Europe painting style. This is painted like 100 years before Michelangelo's and Titian's paintings, and where they like previously paintings, they had something that looked like a realistic background, a realistic setting. This takes place in like an imaginary place where the sky is painting like this golden background. So already there you can see that it belongs to a different area. So keep in mind, 100 years before Michelangelo, it's a gilded painting. Of course, in print it will not show up, but I can see on the photo right here that everything here has been gilded. Cain, he's almost looking like he's regretting, you know, he's standing there like a silhouette to the background. It's really weird. It's like he's paper pieced into this painting, and he's ready to give Abel that fatal blow. But this shows the striking difference between that high Renaissance painters that included storytelling and some sort of like, yeah, a setting of the scene, where this painting that's done in the Middle Age shows more like the specific exact moment and what they felt in that the minute it happened, right? It almost looked like he's regretting. But this don't have any story setting like this. Here you show it's a garden. You show the nakedness. You know that these leaves are gonna fall. You show what happened. It's like a story, you know, where this is like a snapshot of a moment. So that kind of shows the difference into the painting style from the Northern Europe, if you compare it to the high Renaissance. Let's go for the next one. I think it's this one here, yeah. This is Caravaggio, Bernardo Caravaggio, and it's the offering from Noah. Let me zoom down. I think most of you have heard his name before, Caravaggio. I can't express it so voluptuously as they can when an Italian is saying this. But Caravaggio, it's definitely 16th century. You can so see that it's like the Italian school. This painting is actually at the Fine Museum of Art in Houston. So if you want to see this, you have to go to Texas. Well, Caravaggio, he painted in the totally Baroque style. You can just see it, like it's so like full of color, dark tones. Like what's to say is about this period that's called the Baroque is that it started in Italy in the 17th century. And note that he was dead before the 17th century. So painters began to express their art in like really dramatic way, like almost like a theater. Like look how theatrical they are standing, showing their emotion with every body language that they can. And I think that Bernardo Cavallino, I keep butchering his name. We'll just call him Bernardo. I think that Bernardo, he's sometimes kind of forgotten when people talk about the Baroque style, because he was kind of ahead of his time. The Baroque paintings, they're like really interesting to discover, because the painters had like a very specific focus. The art was to make the stories in the Bible more understandable for those who couldn't read. So that's the reason for all the drama and the setting of a stage. So it was like a tiny theatrical performance, like their sculptures, you know. So, but back in the 17th century, the population was very illiterate. So they, like I said before, used art to tell the most important key stories from the Bible. So paintings like this is setting the tone of what to subtract from a Bible text. So that's why it looks a little bit like stiff, you know. And if you have to compare it to Michelangelo and the time era that people love the most, you know, the Renaissance, you can see that they are looking kind of artificial, like flat painted, like a statue posture. So I don't know, you tell me. It looks like it could be like one big statue, this one, and not so much humans, scenery. So yeah, it's just fun, you know. I came to understand these biblical paintings a lot more after I realized that they were biblical. I know it sounds crazy, right? But I recall the first time I went to the National Museum of Art here in Denmark. I wasn't painting, I wasn't into art, I wasn't into anything. I was just out to make a good impression for my hubby, you know. He's the one who wanted to go to the museum, so I was just playing along to be the nice girlfriend, you know. But I remember that I saw all these like drama, like Baroque paintings, just walking straight past him thinking, that's such a crazy thing, because it's got like nothing to do with real life. And I was thinking about, did people really dress like this? Did this really happen? You know, it was like not really part of my imagination back then. But now I have gained a lot more patina, is it called that? A nice way to say that I'm getting so much older. I understand why they have to be illustrative Christian paintings to tell the story for people who couldn't read. So these paintings are actually referring to a text that you can sit down and read. And when you know the text, you will understand the choice that the painter took. Like why they chose to have hand gestures like they have, why they chose to focus on one particular person. So it's just really interesting. So don't know that painter a lot, but let me flip to another one. Like, let's see. Some of these paintings I don't know squat about, so I'm just gonna talk about the ones that I know that I know. Let me see if there's... But there's like 95 of them. Which one we can talk about? But what about, I think there is one. Yeah, this one. Oh, this is a good one. Bruegel. Again, one of these like very infamous popular paintings. You have seen it depicted on postcards, and I wouldn't be surprised if this was made into a paperback by Stemperinius. But anyway, this actually shows the Tower of Babel. You know, the tower that humans try to build into heaven, like a man-made tower of arrogance that God, of course, had to tear down to the ground to show that he is the one, and you are not supposed to think that you are God, you know. So this is like a very famous painting, and you can find it in the art museum in Vienna. It's from the 15th century. The painter is Pieter Bruegel. Pieter is like a French way of saying Peter. And Peter, he belongs to the Flemish school. And this remarkable painting just shows how this painter from the Netherlands understood how to merge two art styles together, because he was like heavily inspired by the Italians, but he's still like totally faithful to the Northern European style of creating and expressing yourself. So when you look at the super detailed background, I can imagine if you're standing in front of this fabulous painting, you will be able to see a ton of detail. Like every single tree and every single roof of buildings are so detailed, and yet it has this composition of the Italian style of how to tell a story in a very dramatic way. So we all understand that underlying story behind this biblical event. The building of the tower done by mankind, like you can see, like they're here working down here, and how that cloud up here illustrate that they build it all the way into heaven. But I think that this painter really loved this style that we have in the Middle Age of illuminating things, you know, like also, you know, like illuminated letters. They had this very sick sense of tiny detail. So he's having like detail all the way in the background. That is a very significant way of painting, because normally you'll see that people are blurring out, like Titian, he would like have blurred out this background. He would have found a color palette that would simulate a fuzzy, hazy way of expressing what's behind this Tower of Babel. So Titian would probably have like a colorful palette of light green, turquoise green, and then some warm earth tones in a haze. Where Pieter Bruegel is like super intricate, like it was an illumination he had to depict. So very, very interesting. Let's see, we saw one with Abraham. Yeah, this one. This is a full page illustration. I love this Bible. I mean, it is super huge. Should I try and find some measurements on it? Let's see. Do I have a ruler? Okay, I got like no ruler on my table, but I kind of know that this piece of paper is 11 inches tall. It's a little bit under, like, I would say like 10.5 inches tall book. So this is like a gorgeous illustration. It's painted by Dirk Bout. I can't express his last name. Dirk Bout, B-O-U-T-S, Brute. It depicts the scenery between Abraham and the king of, another word that I'm trouble with, Melchizedek. Forgive me for not knowing how to pronounce this. But this painting is like totally actual, is it called that? It's just been Easter, you know? And this is a depiction that refers to Easter. It comes from a text from the Genesis, where the Israelites are being instructed in how to actually celebrate Easter. So what we see here is a priest that are bringing anointed bread and wine for the king of Salem, and the king is called Melchizedek. So that's like setting the stage. The painter is from Saint-Pierre in Belgium, and it's painted in the 14th century. What to say about this is, look at that loose composition. It got like, it's a little bit messy what's going on here, and these people here, I mean, it's a loose composition. It's not like theatrical statues like we saw before. So I don't know, it's a strange mix. I look at this painting and see something different. I see that it's not so theatrical, but it looks very detailed when you look at the faces. Oh my god, look at these faces. Can you see how much detail went into this? It's like tiny portraits of real persons, and also the outfits. Look how much enhancement and detail that's done from the, dare I say it's a costume, from the clothing, and particularly the anointed wine and bread. And then the faces strikes me like portraits, like these 3 enhanced faces, and then the rest of the faces are, you know, in the background here, like just blurry, like loose. But the 6 people standing here looks to me like real people had posed for portraits that he studied, and deliberately chose those 6 people to fit an to fit this place. It's a little bit difficult to explain, but I just love that realism that the faces got in this painting, and I find it a little bit strange to see it in conjunction with all that flat background and that almost like artificial surrounding. It's almost like this area of the city don't connect to that. I don't know. It looks artificial in the background and like really realism up here. So, strange way of painting. Okay, let's see. But it's a beautiful Bible. Oh, this one, I remember this one, yeah. Oh, it's a little bit dark, it's a little bit small. Let's try and zoom the camera down. Yeah, it's painted by Corot. C-O-R-O-T, Corot. That's how I'm gonna pronounce it. You probably have, you know, if you have like an accent, French accent, you would pronounce it different. It shows the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. I think it's titled The Destruction of Sodom. But now we are really talking like the French school, like French classicism. It shows a scenery where God has destroyed the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. And supposedly right after this destruction, he painted this painting. Because in the background you can see the smoke rise from the destroyed city, so I'm feeling that we are standing in the edge of the city right after that crucial moment where the cities has been destroyed by the wrath of God. You can see that an angel, I will call it, this person right here, yeah, I would say that this is an angel who is guiding Lot and his daughters away. So the father Lot is here, and this is his 2 daughters, and this is his wife. Because, or is the angel up here? I see an angel here too. I don't know. But the biblical text is actually about Lot was helped to escape this destruction by an angel. So he rescued his daughters and his wife. I keep thinking about this shape. It is so odd. It is so detached from the from the painting. So when I saw it, I actually thought that is so odd. It can only be, if I look at it, it can only be his wife, because this is his daughters. So I'm thinking, what makes the painter choose to paint the setting like this? That is so strange. Also a little bit scary, right? Like the ghostly standing there looking back at the destroyed city, where these people are looking forward in the road. So when I look at it, I'm just thinking like it must be Lot's wife, and she's standing there, totally still, looking back at all that destruction. And I think that by adding her in this particular pondering position, just changed the whole mood and setting of the whole scenery. Like, from depicting a moment of fear into quiet reflection. Like, I don't know, but imagine that it was you and you had to escape this particular moment in the biblical text where you have been in a city that's going down, being destroyed by the wrath of God. So it's not like a volcano, it's something even worse. It's like the wrath of God. You've been saved from that moment. Wouldn't you be like totally, like in the aftermath, be terrified and scared? And yet he chose that the wife should turn around, look at it all, and ponder. So I think that by doing that, he's adding a much deeper atmosphere into the scenery. So I think he wants us to ponder about the reason for the destruction more than fearing the reaction from God. You know, like, this is not a painting showing fear. And I'm saying this because a lot of people think that Christianity got a God that we fear contra love. But this painting shows the opposite, right? Like, there's no fear in their faces, only this woman pondering, making us stop, making it more serious into a deeper emotion, like you should think about what went wrong since these two cities deserved this kind of destruction. So, yeah. But I know that a lot of people are saying that you shouldn't tell what you feel about when you see a painting because it's up to the viewer. But I think I'm just gonna do this with this Bible because like I said, I view these paintings differently now that I kind of know how to connect them with a biblical event, and now I know how time consuming it is to actually paint a painting. So I kind of know that all the preparation before you start a giant oil painting like this, everything is thought through. There's like no happy accidents. Everything has been changed and transformed and set up to give that exact feeling you wish the majority to receive when they look at your piece of art. So I have like deep respect for the choices that the painters are making. I'm trying to connect them to a time era to understand their style more. So that's why I think it's super fun and interesting to look back in this Bible and see these paintings. And it's also fun for me because the paintings appear right opposite the text. So if I'm in doubt what's going on in this picture, I can actually just read it here. So it's like a puzzle with a solution. So, but this painting is painted by Andrea del Sarto, and it's called The Sacrifice of Abraham, and that's like freely translated from Danish into English. But basically, it's about the sacrifice that Abraham thought he had to do to prove to God that he loved him. It belongs in the 5th book of the Genesis, and short to say about that book is that it's telling us a lot about how to obey our God and how to follow his laws within this belief of Christianity. So I think that in English, the book of Moses, that's what we call it in Denmark. I think it's called the Genesis, right? Well, there is this chapter where God is telling Abraham to give him a sacrifice. So Abraham is willing to kill his own son Isaac to prove his devotion to God. So right before he strikes, God speaks to him and tells him not to hurt this young boy because his willingness to follow through this killing was proof enough. So we see that exact moment where God is telling Abraham to stop. So here we see how the painter Andrea del Sarto has chosen to depict that particular moment. And the voice from God is delivered through an angel, you know. But notice that light grip and the expression on Isaac's face. Let me zoom down a little bit. Whoop. Can you see that? What comes across is the act of willingness, you know, like Isaac, he could easily have wrestled himself loose from that very light grip that his father is holding on his back. But look at the face. There's like no anger, no fear, and there's like no regret. I mean, this is just an awesome piece of artwork on how to use a painting to kind of set the stage and choose a composition and expression that translate that willingness from both the father and the son by giving that ultimate sacrifice it is to give your life or your son's life, you know. So I think that there is a lot of dignity in the face of Isaac, and I also can't stop looking at the background. Don't you just love how the influence from the Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo just shines through, you know, the way that they painted the background and the color choices. It's just like looking at the background from Mona Lisa. So yeah, this is like a really fine piece from yet another Florentine painter. So, but like I said, it's painted in the 15th century. So it's right after the great breakthrough from the High Renaissance, where I suppose that the painter were kind of struggling to find their own footing after watching Michelangelo's work. I mean, can you imagine having to follow the footsteps from Michelangelo? Oh my God, that would be horrible. Like, how can you stand out as an artist and have your own style without picking up what people love the most about the Renaissance, especially the colorful background, the human nature, like the feeling and the setting of a whole story and not just a snapshot picture. So I think that I will always look at the artists that followed Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci and Raphael and think about, oh, they had such big shoes to fill out. So that's why it's fun to see these now. So, but yeah, I think I should stop now, and then this video will only be less than an hour, so I won't be tedious to listen at. But thank you for watching this far if you did, and thank you for letting me show my illustrative, very special, not my, but my son's apparently. So thank you for letting me display this beautiful book. And I am going to try and be brave and then just continue setting a fingerprint in my own Bible. I think I set a lot of fingerprints in it already, but I need that artistic kind of fingerprint that could be so awesome. Like, look, there's a blank page right here. So maybe I could be inspired by some of the painters I just showcased and read a text and then try and translate it into how I would paint that setting. What, quite a challenge, right? I'm ready to pick up that challenge. But I have to be in the mood first, so let's see. And I actually have to figure out how I can maybe add some pages. Because look, there's not like many free areas, like there's a tiny one here. Holbein actually managed to do a lot of illustration in the margins of small books. And he was like 17 when he did that, so if he can do it, guess I can give it a try. So yeah, but thank you for watching this far. Love you all. Bye bye.